Windows Operating Systems, Installation and Configuration, Part 1. As a PC support technician, you'll want to become A+ certified, which is the industry standard certification for PC support technicians. This program takes you from being an end user of your computer to becoming a PC support technician. You'll learn to install and customize an operating system and applications, troubleshoot and solve problems with the OS, and optimize the system for best performance. The only assumption made here is that you are a computer user. That is, you can turn on your machine, load a software package, and use that software to accomplish that task. An operating system is a software that controls the computer. In general, you can think of an operating system as the middleman between applications and hardware, between the user and hardware, and between user and applications. Several applications might be installed in a computer to meet various user needs, but a computer really needs only one operating system. Although there are important differences among them, all operating systems share the following four main functions. It provides a user interface, thus performing housekeeping procedures requested by the user, often concerning storage devices such as reorganizing a hard drive, deleting files and copy, and changing the system date. It can also manage files, managing files on hard drives, DVD drives, CD drives, USB flash drives, and other external storage devices. It can also manage hardware, specifically managing BIOS. These are programs that are permanently stored on the hardware devices. And of course, managing applications, both installing and uninstalling applications. The desktop is the initial screen that is displayed after the user logs on and Windows is loaded. The Windows desktop provides a graphical user interface, otherwise known or pronounced as GUI, that uses graphics as compared to a command-driven interface. The taskbar is normally located at the bottom of the Windows desktop, displaying information about open programs and providing quick access to others. Items displayed in the taskbar can be programs running or not running. An open application displays a program icon in the taskbar. If you're using the arrow interface, when you hover your mouse over an icon, a thumbnail of the open application appears. The notification area, also called the system tray or sys tray, is usually on the right side of the taskbar and displays open services. A service is a program that runs in the background to support or serve Windows or an application. The services in the notification area include the volume control and a network connectivity, among others. Every OS manages a hard drive, optical drive, USB drive, or other type of drive by using directories, also called folders, subdirectories, and files. The drive is organized with a single root directory at the top of the top-down hierarchical structures of subdirectories, as can be shown in your textbook, Figure 1-10. The exception to this rule is a hard drive because it can be divided into partitions that can have more than one volume, such as drive C and drive D, on the same physical hard drive. For a volume such as drive C, the root directory is written in C. Each volume has its own root directory and hierarchical structures of subdirectories. You can think of volumes as logical drives within one of the physical drives. As shown in Figure 1-10, the root directory can hold files or other directories, which can have names such as C:\\data. This directory is called subdirectories, or child directories or folders can in turn have other directories listed in them. Any directory can have files and other subdirectories listed in it. For example, Figure 1-10 shows one file on drive C that is C:\data\business\letter.docx. In this path to the file, the C: identifies the volume and is called the drive letter. Drive letters used for a hard drive, CD, USB drive, or DVDs are C:, D:, E:, and so forth. Drive letters used for floppy drives are normally A:, or B:. When you refer to a drive and directories that are pointing to the location of a file, as in our example letter.docx, the drive and directories are called the path to the file, as you can see here in Figure 1-12. The first part of the name before the period is called the file name, or the letter, and the part after the period is called the file extension, in this case docx. A file extension indicates how the file is organized or formatted, the type content in the file, and what program uses the file. For example, the docx file extension identifies the file type as a Microsoft Word 2010 document file. By default, Windows does not display file extensions in Windows Explorer. You can, however, change this configuration to explicitly show the default of the extension of a given file. Let's not talk about Windows libraries. A Windows 7 library is a collection of one or more folders, and these folders can be stored on different local drives or on the network. A library is a convenient way to access several folders in different locations from one central location. When Windows is installed, it creates 4 default libraries: Documents, Music, Pictures, and Videos. By default, the first 3 libraries can be accessed from the Start menu. In addition, you can use the computer window or Windows Explorer to access all libraries, including the 4 default ones and any libraries you have created. You can create a file using a particular application, or you can create a file using Windows Explorer or the computer window. In Explorer and the computer window, to create a file, you must right-click in the unused white area on the right pane or right panel of the screen and point to New in the shortcut menu. And this is, of course, triggered by hitting right-click. The menu lists application you can use to create a file in the current folder. Click this application and the file is automatically created. You can then rename the file name however you want. However, to keep the proper file association, don't change the file extension, only the file name. To create a folder, first select the folder you want to be the parent folder. Remember that a parent folder is a folder that contains the child folder. Right-click in the white area of the right panel and point to the New in the shortcut menu. To copy, move, rename, or delete a file or folder, right-click it and select the appropriate action from the shortcut menu. Then click in the white area of the folder where the copied item is to go and then select Paste from the shortcut menu. You can also use the cut and paste commands to move an item to a new location. To select multiple items to delete, copy, or move at the same time, you hold down the Shift or Control keys as you click. Do not release it. To select several adjacent items in a list, click the first item and then Shift-click the last item. To select non-adjacent items in a list, hold down the Control key as you click each item. Using Explorer or the computer window, you can view and change the properties assigned to a file or folder. These properties are called the file attributes or folder attributes. Using these attributes, you can do such things as hide a file, make it read-only, or flag a file to be backed up. As a PC support technician, you need to be able to sit down at a working computer and within 5 or 10 minutes find the details about what software and hardware is installed on the system and the general health of the system. Within 20 minutes, you should be able to solve any minor problems the computer might have, such as a broken network connection. In this part of the slide, you will explore the different tools presented to quickly find answers and solve common problems. You can pause video playback at this point if you need to explore these options in your desktop. As a PC support technician, you can expect to be called on to install Windows in a variety of situations. You might need to install Windows on a new hard drive after an existing Windows installation has become corrupted, or to upgrade from one OS to another. Many decisions need to be made before the installation. Decisions to consider about Windows 7 are covered in this part of the chapter, and most of these decisions apply to any Windows operating system. Microsoft has produced several editions of Windows 7 designed to satisfy a variety of consumer needs as presented in this slide. A quick note, however, an antitrust ruling, which is a ruling to break up monopolies, in Europe requires that Microsoft must offer editions of Windows that do not include multimedia utilities. Windows 7, therefore, comes in version N and version KN that do not include Windows Media Player, Windows Media Center, and Windows DVD Maker. For example, Windows 7 Home Premium N, Windows 7 Ultimate N, and Windows 7 Professional KN do not include these multimedia utilities. If you have an N or a KN editions of Windows, you can, however, legally download the utilities from the Microsoft website. When buying Windows 7, know that you can purchase a retail license or an OEM or original equipment manufacturer license. The OEM license costs less but can only be installed on a new PC for resale. The box retail package contains the 32-bit DVD and the 64-bit DVD. You can also purchase and download Windows 7 from the online store at microsoftstore.com. The retail license costs less if you purchase a license to upgrade from, say, Vista to 7 or 7 to Windows 10. You are required to purchase the Windows 7 full license for a new computer or any computer that has an OS other than the Vista and XP installed. Example would be Windows 95 or Windows 98. Recall that an operating system can process 32 bits or 64 bits. A 64-bit installation of Windows generally performs better than a 32-bit installation if you have enough RAM. Another advantage of 64-bit installation of Windows is that they can support 64-bit applications, which run faster than 32-bit applications. Even though you can install 32-bit applications in a 64-bit OS for best performance, always choose 64-bit applications. Keep in mind that 64-bit installation of Windows requires 64-bit device drivers as well. The minimum hardware requirements for Windows 7 are listed in Table 2-3 in this slide. These minimum requirements are also Microsoft recommended requirements. The requirements are the same as those for older versions of Windows. Know, however, that Microsoft occasionally changes the minimum and recommended requirements for an OS. Depending on the circumstances and the available hardware, you might be faced with an installation on a computer that does not have a DVD drive, a computer that needs a factory recovery, and an installation in a virtual computer as examples. All these special considerations are discussed next. If you have a notebook computer or a brand name computer such as Dell, IBM, or Gateway, and you need to install Windows, follow the recovery procedures given by the manufacturer themselves. A hard drive is divided into one or more partitions, and the hard drive on a brand name computer is likely to have hidden recovery partition that contains a recovery utility and installation files. To access the utilities on the hidden partition, press a key during a startup. The key to press is displayed on the screen early in the boot before the OS is loaded. If you don't see the message, search the website of the computer's manufacturer to find the key combination. Sometimes a manufacturer puts a utility in this hidden partition that can be used to create recovery disks, as shown here in figure 2-7. However, the disks must have already been created if they are to be there to help you in the event the entire hard drive fails. You might also be able to purchase these CDs or DVDs on the notebook manufacturer's website. Another type of Windows applications, or installation rather, is when you install Windows in a virtual computer. A virtual computer, or virtual machine, is a software that simulates the hardware of a physical computer. Using this software, you can install and run multiple operating systems at the same time on a PC. These multiple instances of operating systems can be used to train users, run legacy software, and support multiple operating systems. For example, help desk technicians can run a virtual machine for each OS they support on a single PC and quickly switch from one OS to another by clicking a window. If you are installing Windows on a new hard drive, you must perform a clean install. If an OS is already installed on the hard drive, you have three choices. First is the clean install. You can perform a clean install, overriding the existing operating system and applications. In the Windows 7 setup program, a clean install is called a custom install. The main advantage of a clean install is that the problems with the old OS are not carried forward and you get a fresh start. During the installation, you will have the option to reformat the hard drive, erasing everything on the drive. If you don't format the drive, the data will still be on the drive, but the previous operating system settings and applications will be lost. After Windows is installed, you will need to install the application. In place of an upgrade, if the upgrades path allows it, you can perform an in-place upgrade installation. An in-place upgrade is a Windows installation that is launched from the Windows desktop, and the installation carries forward user settings and installed applications from the old OS to the new one. A Windows OS is already in place before you begin the new installation. An in-place upgrade is faster than a clean install and is appropriate if the system is generally healthy and does not have problems. Another type of installation is a dual boot installation. Here you can install Windows in a second partition on the hard drive and create a dual boot situation with the other OS. Don't create a dual boot unless you need two operating systems, such as when you need to verify that applications and hardware work under Windows 7 before you delete the old OS. Windows 7 always require that they be the only operating system installed on a partition. So to set up at least a dual boot, you'll need to have at least two partitions on the hard drive or on a second hard drive. In addition to the information on the previous slides, keep in mind these tips. A 64-bit version of Windows can only be upgraded to a 64-bit OS. A 32-bit OS can only be upgraded to a 32-bit OS. If you want to install a 64-bit version of Windows on a computer that already has a 32-bit OS installed, you must perform a clean install. You can only upgrade Windows Vista, for instance, and XP to Windows 7 after XP or Vista Service Pack 1. A hard drive is divided into one or more partitions. When a partition is formatted with a file system and assigned a drive letter such as drive C, it is called a volume. A file system is the overall structure an OS uses to name, store, and organize files on a volume, and Windows is always installed on a volume that uses the NTFS file system. For most installation, you install Windows on the only hard drive in the computer and allocate all the space on the drive to one partition that Windows setup calls drive C, and install the Windows in the C:\Windows folder. Recall that Windows supports two types of accounts, standard accounts and administrator accounts. These accounts are local accounts, meaning they are only recognized by the local computer. Every Windows computer has two local administrator accounts. During the Windows 7 installation, you are given the opportunity to enter an account name and password to a local user account that is assigned administrator privileges. This account is enabled by default. A built-in administrator account is created by default as well. The built-in administrator account is named administrator, does not have password, and is disabled by default. Later on, in succeeding chapters, you will learn how to enable this administrator account. You can log on as administrator after the OS is installed and create local user accounts that apply to this one computer. How to set up a local account is covered later on in succeeding chapters. Three ways Windows support accessing resources on a network are to use Windows home group, work group, or domain. A home group and work group are examples of a peer-to-peer network. If you're familiar with torrents, you are definitely aware of what a P2P network is. It is a network that is managed by each computer without centralized control. They form a logical group of computers and users that share resources, where administration, resources, and security in a workstation are controlled by the same workstations themselves. Third one is a Windows domain, which is really a logical group of network computers that share a centralized directory database of user account information and security for the entire group of computers. A Windows domain is a type of client-server network, which is a network where resources are managed by centralized computers. Using the client-server model, the directory database is controlled by the NOS, or the Network Operating System. Examples of network operating systems are, of course, the Windows Server, the Unix, and the Linux platform. Just a little reminder though, Windows Home Editions do not support joining a domain. If you plan to join a domain on your network, you have to install Windows 7 Professional, Enterprise, or Ultimate Editions. Recall that in-place upgrades begins after you have booted the system to a Windows desktop. An upgrade to Windows 7 carries application and user settings forward into the new installation. Make sure to follow these steps in chronological sequence to ensure smooth transition as identified in this slide. To perform a clean install of Windows 7 or a dual boot with another OS, you can begin the installation from the Windows 7 DVD or from the Windows desktop. If no operating system is installed on the PC, begin the installation by booting from the Windows 7 DVD. Using this method, the upgrade option is not available, and you are forced to do a custom installation, also called a clean install. If an operating system is clearly installed on the PC, you can begin the installation from the Windows desktop or by booting from the Windows 7 DVD. Either way, you can perform a custom installation. If you are installing a 64-bit OS when a 32-bit OS is already installed, or vice versa, you must begin the installation by booting from the DVD. The DVD setup still allows you to use the less expensive upgrade license even though you are performing a clean install because it is able to verify a Windows installation is already present. Follow these steps and procedures to begin the installation by booting from a Windows DVD. After the installation, when you boot with a dual boot, the bootloader menu automatically appears and asks you to select an operating system, as shown here in Figure 2-28. When using a dual boot, you can execute an application while Windows 7 is loaded even if the application is installed under the other operating system. If the application is not listed in the Start menu, locate the program file in Windows Explorer. Double-click the application to run it from Windows 7. You should not have to install an application twice under each operating system. Microsoft suggests 4 deployment strategies. The one chosen depends on the number of computers to be deployed and determines the amount of time you must sit in front of an individual computer as Windows is installed. This time is called a touch time. As a PC support technician in a large corporation, most likely you would not be involved in choosing or setting up deployment strategy, but you need to be aware of the different strategies so that you have a general idea of what will be expected of you when you are asked to provide desk side or help desk support as Windows is being deployed in your organization. The 4 deployment strategies are discussed next. The high touch with retail media strategy is the strategy used in the installation described earlier in the chapter. All the work is done by a technician sitting at the computer. To save time doing multiple installation, you can copy the setup files on a Windows Setup DVD to a file server on the network and share that folder. Then at each computer, you can execute the setup program on the server to perform a clean install or upgrade of the operating system. A server used in this way is called a distribution server. Except for upgrade installations, applications must be manually installed after the OS is installed. To use the high touch using a standard image strategy this time, a system administrator prepares an image called a standard image that includes Windows 7, drivers, and applications that are standard to all the computers that might use that image. A standard image is hardware independent, meaning it can be installed on any computer. Drive imaging software is used to clone an entire hard drive to another bootable media in a process called drive imaging or disk cloning. Tools included in the Windows AIK program of Microsoft or third-party software can be used. Examples of third-party driver or drive imaging softwares are TrueImage by Acronis, Norton Ghost by Symantec, and CloneZilla, which is a freeware managed by NCHC. Installing a standard image on another computer is called image deployment, which always result in a clean install rather than an upgrade. To begin, boot the computer from the bootable DVD that contains the image. A menu appears to begin the Windows installation. When you finish this Windows installation, the standard image is installed. The light touch high volume deployment strategy uses a deployment server on the network to serve up the installation after the technician starts the process. The files in the installation include Windows, device drivers, and applications, and collectively are called the distribution share. The technician starts the installation by booting the computer to Windows PE, or Windows Pre-environment. Windows Pre-installation environment is a minimum operating system used to start the installation. It is included in the Windows AIK software tools and can be installed in a USB flash drive, CD, DVD to make the device bootable. The technician boots from the device, which might be configured to display a menu to choose from multiple distribution shares available on the deployment server. Another strategy is called the zero-touch, high-volume deployment strategy, which is the most difficult to set up and requires complex tools. The installation does not require the user to start a process called the full automation. Rather, the installation uses push automation, meaning that a server automatically pushes the installation to a computer when a user is not likely to be sitting at it. The entire remote network installation is automated and no user intervention is required. The process can turn on a computer that is turned off and even work when no operating system is installed on the computer or the current OS is corrupted. I hope this has been informative for you, and I would like to thank you for